collections on hand. Today, ladies and gentlemen, this will be 5 things that I love about my 2020 Dodge Charger Daytona Hellcat Widebody. And we're gonna start off with number 1 being acceleration. So we're gonna jump on the highway right now, and let me just tell you something. The acceleration on these cars is off the charts. So like I said before, I had fun with my Daytona 392's acceleration, but these Daytona Hellcat accelerations are just like on another level. So we're gonna see, I'm gonna show you that right now. We're gonna jump on the highway and let these guys just go so I can show you exactly what that's about. Now, one of the things that I want to tell you, actually let's just listen. Let me just hit vent. Off the charts acceleration, off the charts. Right there, I separated myself from vehicles that were approaching me, and I got up to big numbers pretty quick. Let me tell you something, these cars get off the line like you wouldn't believe. Now, most of you guys know how I research just about everything that I own or that I really put my mind to. And right now, the shifting on this Daytona Hellcat at 717 horsepower is tuned differently from the 707 Hellcat. And what I found is the case with this 717 is this Daytona Hellcat is tuned similar to the Red Eye. Now, what you have to remember, the Red Eye has 80 more horsepower at 797 horsepower, but there is not much difference at all when it comes to the Red Eye and this Daytona Hellcat. So you have a same 0 to 60 at 3.4, and you have a 3.4 seconds, and you have a 10.9 quarter mile in this Daytona Hellcat, and you have a 10.8 in the Red Eye. So, you know, 1/10 of a second at 80 more horsepower and a hell of a lot more money. The cars are very similar. That car stock and this car stock is not very different at all. So that's why I knew going in with this car, I was making a good buy. But no matter what, I can care less about a Red Eye or a Demon in the future. This is the car that I wanted, and this is the car I'll always be happy with. So just the acceleration in these cars is off the charts. It's slim to none. So that would be number 1. Now, as far as number 2, I would have to say the supercharger whine. Now, the supercharger whine is something that is new to me, and you know, I've had a naturally aspirated car for 3 years with that Daytona 392, and now with this Daytona Hellcat, to have a supercharger and just to hear that whine is so unique to the ear, and it's very addictive. It can become a very addicting thing to want to hear that over and over again, all right, to be on the accelerator. And in that pull, hopefully you guys just heard it. But like I said, number 2 would have to be that supercharger whine. Just the whine alone and how it sounds, you know, that's why I know I would never do a muffler delete or change the exhaust on this Daytona Hellcat, because if anything, I would want to enhance the whine more than anything. You know, I would never want to make the exhaust louder to overpower the whine so you can't even hear the whine. Like that's not something that I care to do. You know, I just do not care to do anything to this exhaust on this car, and especially not right now while it's brand new. Maybe years down the line when, you know, I've heard the whine for years and I'm just over it. But right now, like I said, and I don't even really see how you could ever get over it. Right now, that whine is one of the most attractive things about these cars. To hear that is something different. You do not hear that on the norm. You know, from every car, from a 4-cylinder all the way up to a big V8, you do not hear that for the norm. For the most part, they're just all naturally aspirated cars, and you're not hearing that whine. So that would definitely be number 2. Number 3, I would have to say the suspension on this car. Now, once again, on my Daytona 392, there was a fixed Bilstein suspension, all right, and I always wanted that adjustable suspension that the Hellcat offered, and I always knew if I had it, I would have a better launch with my 0 to 60s like I did on my Daytona 392, and I would have just a better overall experience if I could just control my suspension like the Hellcats do, like the Hellcats offer. And I never had that. I always knew about the suspension being able to be put in street, sport, or track, and that option never existed for me on the Daytona 392. So now just having that on the Hellcat for the first time is something new to me, and it's something that I really enjoy. Now here, perfect time, we're coming up on a bend, a big curve right now, so I'm just gonna hit this around the curve and show you guys. I mean, you won't be able to tell where the camera placement is, but look at that. I mean, it just wraps around a curve like you wouldn't believe. And I mean, I went around that curve close to 50 miles per hour. I mean, it was like 46, 47, and I mean, it was just nailed down. The suspension in street is so soft. It's like it is so like luxury feeling, like how I've explained to you guys before in an earlier video. It is a luxury feel, and you know, I have yet to change my suspension out of street because I'm keeping that and saving that for my first experiences for a video that I want to do for you guys. But the suspension on this car would have to be number 3. You know, it is just incredible to be able to adjust your suspension and to put it to whatever you want, depending on the situation or whatever you're trying to do. If you're launching this car, you want the suspension to be soft. You want it to be in street. If you're on the track and you're around the road course, you want things to be stiffer. So, and you know, sport is right in the middle when it comes to the suspension. So the suspension upgrades that they did on this car for the wide body, number 1, and just the control to have your adjustable suspension on the Hellcat from day 1 mixed in, like I said, with these new upgrades, and just the whole entire suspension in its entirety on this car is just off the charts. You know, the handling is incredible. You know, it's so smooth, and at the same time it's so responsive. One of the main things that really attracts me about the drive of this car, along with the acceleration being number 1, number 2, that supercharger whine, and number 3, the suspension. All right, and this one may be kind of hard to do. Let me just close the sunshade so we can see this better. But I had to come over to my passenger seat so I can show you guys number 4. And number 4 would have to be this new SRT page setup. All right, they have like a dashboard setup where you can see its SRT dashboard at the very top. Before, when you would hit the SRT button or the Super Track Pack button, before, it would go right into the drive modes, which is here. But now they have this little dashboard setup that I like a lot. Now, on this dashboard setup, the first thing you will see is at the top left corner, you will see drive modes. Then you'll see your preferred pages. Then you'll see your race options. Then you can have your shift light on, activate line lock, and then you can see your actual launch control settings that you have set up for the car. Over here to your right, you have your post-race settings and all of your statuses: the engine off, hood ajar, battery status, system status, and your cooling required. All right, and then it tells you your race cooldown. Now, if you go into drive modes right here, this will bring you into what you guys are used to seeing when you used to hit this button before. Before you would hit this button, it would go directly into this page, and then you would have to hit up here at the top your performance pages to go in your performance pages. Now that has been switched to just your dashboard. So you hit this and it goes back to the dashboard. And I found that what I love about this new Uconnect, it also mixes in as number 4. It is so much more responsive than before. It is the same 8.4 4th generation Uconnect, but it's just a different UI, and they have this now dashboard. So let's just go back to the drive modes. So here in your drive modes, as you can see, we've been in 717 horsepower in automatic, which is street mode. So I have my transmission as street, paddle shifters are off, traction is in street, suspension is in street, and steering is in street. So custom, I have is set up like this. I have it at, of course, 717. The transmission is in track. The paddle shifters are off. If I'm letting somebody drive my car for the first time and I'm not really sure if they know how to use paddle shifters, but I want them to get that full experience, I have paddle shifters off. The same thing that I did on my Daytona 392 in custom. Traction is in street. Of course, that keeps the traction control on. You do not want to play around with traction control off, especially if you're letting your car be driven by somebody else. And even if you want to make sure you don't lose control, you want to keep traction control on street. And of course, if somebody's leisurely driving my car, I just have my suspension in track. I'm not doing any launches or anything like that. If I was doing a launch, if I was doing like a 0 to 60, I would put my suspension in street so it can be softer, so you can get that weight transfer of the horsepower back to the rear wheels. And of course, the steering is in track. Now here's my sport setup. So sport, of course, everything is on sport, and paddle shifters are on. But let's just go to track. And that is my track setup right there. And this new SRT menu, I would have to say, would be number 4. All right, guys, number 5, last but not least, saving the best for last. Just the body style of these new wide bodies, and just the hips, the extra hips that the car has. As you can see, you know, 3.5 inches wider, and the car just has an even more aggressive look than it did before. You know, these cars were very wide before. My Daytona 392 was very wide before, but they are even more so wider now with this new wide body, you know, upgrade that they did. And I love this new vent here that they took from the Durango, and just the car just looks menacing. Just the body, the curves of this car, just how it looks. You know, you can just see every single line, every single curve, and you can just see how much more aggressive and menacing this car looks from the front with these wide body flares. I mean, I'm looking at it on the screen and then I'm looking at it in person, and just seeing this car in person is a big difference. You know, I'm looking on my display screen and it just does not do it justice when I take my eyes off this display screen to see what you guys are seeing, and you look at it with your real eyes. It is just way better to see these cars in person, and numerous people have, you know, witnessed that, and they've confirmed that. And people that I tell, when they see the car in person, they can just see a big difference on how these cars look in person. But yeah, just the overall upgrade that they did with this new wide body, finally giving us Charger guys the wide body. It just looks big body, even more big body than it was before. So that would be the fifth and final thing that I would have to say that I absolutely love about my 2020 Dodge Charger Daytona Hellcat Widebody. So guys, if you have not seen the first video that I did, 5 things that I absolutely hate about my 2020 Dodge Charger Daytona Hellcat, which of course was not things that I hate, was just more things that I dislike. And of course in that video, I had to nitpick like I did back in 2017 when I did this video on my Daytona 392. But check that video out if you have not checked it out already. And like I said, make sure you are subscribed, make sure you hit that bell and turn all post notifications on, and I will see you in the next one. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna be a wrap.